So good morning. We're just going to get started. It is right at 11:30. I've got a short presentation here for you about sort of the way we're seeing digital signage and how it plays against and with wide format signage. So my name's Tim Green. I'm the director of wide format research at Infotrends. I've been the director at Infotrends since 2001, and my job basically is to look at the forces, the wide format business, how big is that, what directions are that heading, and then also look at some of the particular applications. So we look at digital signage in some cases as a threat, in some cases as an opportunity. Yeah, so the first thing I want to say about digital signage, the way we see them, it's absolutely a growth market. I couldn't agree more with what the previous speaker was saying. It is definitely a growth business. We're seeing predicted rates from anywhere from 4 up to 40% per year in terms of the expansion of digital signage systems. There's some numbers here from the U.S. ad industry, and you can see like the U.S. market for place-based sector grew 13% last year. And that's in an environment where the overall ad industry grew less than 1%. So that absolutely is in a hyper-growth stage versus conventional advertising. The digital signage business is also expected to grow, thank you very much, at a rate of about 9%. And it's already about a $15 billion business, right? So this is already a very big business, and it's growing at a very exciting rate. Again, just a prediction or analysis of where those numbers are coming from, or it's from IHS, and again, a $15 billion market for 2014 already. Very exciting numbers in terms of market size. But the way we look at it, we say, well, sort of as David was saying, you know, where are these companies going to buy it? Where's digital signage systems coming from? Who's going to do the implementation? And in our view, sign shops and printing companies are in a very good position to do that, to be that supplier. So when we look at, we call this is a McKinsey diagram about where does growth come from? Where does any kind of growth come from? Really, any business could look at their markets and say, how do I grow? Do I sell more to new customers? Do I expand into new geographies? Do I sell a higher volume of sales to existing customers? All of those, you all do those things in the sign business anyway, right? You're going to find a new customer or go into new markets or expand into a new geography. You all know it's a very price-sensitive market. So we think there's new models, and I think that's sort of what David was saying. It's a new model. It's a new revenue opportunity to deliver signage and graphics in a new way, to take advantage of a new industry structure, and really to get involved in a new competitive arena. And how do you do that? Well, one way is through acquisition, and certainly I think we're going to see some of that. There's lots of joint ventures, partnerships, and in many cases, organic investment. Excuse me. And this is an important one, right? Because we think many of the companies that are involved in the sign business now are very small. In fact, it's a classic pyramid in the market, meaning, 50% or so of signage and graphic shops have less than $1 million in annual sales. They're quite small companies typically. So how are they gonna go acquire a new company? Probably not. Are they gonna partner up? Maybe. But you think about these things in this kind of way, it's a more risky. The more investment you make, the more risk is involved, right? So we're very excited by some of the things that we're seeing coming online, like in the U.S. Just a couple of weeks ago at the ISA show, Roland launched a digital signage initiative. This is a $1,000 system. Basically, it's a business in a box. Any sign shop can resell this Roland system, and it's basically all the components you need for a digital signage system. Now, it's not networked. It's a very low-end kind of tool, kind of system, but there's very little technical understanding that's really needed to sell and implement that kind of system. So we're quite excited about that. Again, this is a McKinsey chart. So why would you even think about digital signage? Okay, there's lots of ways you could go, lots of new markets, lots of new print-related technology. Why digital signage? Well, I like to say one of the great rules of management is that customers define what's valuable. Okay, and as previous speaker said, one of the biggest issues here is impact. How do you make an impact? And if customers are defining, your customers, your advertising customers are defining what's really valuable, if they're saying impact is the most important, the real thing is the quantifiable benefit. As we've seen, there's sales lift in some of these markets, like the fast food business in the U.S. The average fast food business that puts up a digital menu board sees sales grow 6 to 12% instantly. 6 to 12% in a flat market like fast food is a huge, huge increase when you think about all those stores that are across that chain. The average store growing 6 to 12%. That's a huge improvement. So it's a big issue. There's also in certain other areas like banks, the perceived reduction of wait time. Again, that's an annoyance. It's another thing that people are considerate of, and a digital signage system can help alleviate some of that. And as David mentioned, a lot of sign shops already have access to customers. So is the average sign shop going to go sell to a McDonald's or a Burger King or a Starbucks? Probably not. But you probably have lots of very small customers who could do 1, 2, 3, 4 digital sign kind of installations, and you already have those relationships. In many cases, you already have the assets that they want to present in those digital signage systems. You already have some of their menu information. You already have their logos. You already have their color schemes involved. So you already have some of that stuff. The other thing is you want to provide that something new to your customer, right? And I've got a pretty good implementation here. This is a booth that a company in Ireland put together for a trade show, right? And basically, it was integrating the digital signage with a printed trade show booth. And what was happening is if you wanted something in this, sorry, I didn't know I wasn't going to be able to walk around. This is basically a bunch of cubby holes, and those cubby holes are filled with snacks. And if you wanted one of the snacks that was in those cubby holes, all you had to do was tweet, "Boy, I'd love the snack that's in cubby hole A4." And if you tweeted it, they would pick up and then hashtag it, then boom, that door would just open. You could go grab your snack. So a great way to gamify or link social media in with a digital signage system. And you note that there is printed graphics surrounding that digital sign, right? That was a booth that company printed and then converted using for that customer. Another one is there's a game. Red Bull did a very nice implementation of this, where there was basically a game you put on your phone, and if you achieve a certain level, basically if you do almost anything on this game, if you were standing next to a Red Bull machine, by the time you achieved a certain level, you could hit redeem, and a Red Bull would literally pop out of that machine right in front of you. Pretty awesome way to gamify a digital signage system. And as I said, a lot of this will drive additional print activity, right? So we've seen many implementations in the United States where you've got, quite like this actually, where you'd have a digital screen, but then this printed graphic, the floor graphics leading up to it, the banners that were leading your eyes directly to where the company wanted you to see, what they wanted you to see. So it actually would increase the amount of printed activity to surround and create the right kind of environment for that digital sign. So this is just a look at sort of how we're thinking about the digital signage market. I like to think of these kind of things in a framework sense, and there's absolutely an opportunity for many, many sign shops to get in at what I would call the small standalone sort of implementation of digital signage systems. I think what a lot of what previous speaker David was talking about is at the much higher end. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with being in the low end to start off and then graduating upward. And so as we see the complexity goes up, the ease of entry goes down. So, as I said, some of these digital signage systems can be very, very easy to implement. Doesn't have to be the most challenging thing. But as I said, a lot of times signage and graphics will play, digital printed sign and graphics will play a role in a digital signage system. So we do some of this research with our print buyers and with print service providers, and we've asked lots of questions around digital signage. I've got a few different research slides. But one of the things we asked in North America, these are among 526 wide format buyers, we've asked them, have you ever considered digital signage advertising instead of wide format graphics. And you can see that at this point, about 65% say they've considered but rejected or never even considered. So at this point, there's absolutely still and again, in point going back to the previous presentation, I know some of you weren't here, but the U.S. is a very big digital out-of-home business, but still there's lots of buyers who haven't even considered it. So printed graphics are still and will remain here to stay. Oh, I'm sorry. I wanted to go back one more thing about that previous slide. So out of those companies that we said that have purchased digital displays, we asked them if it was instead of wide format graphics or if it was a complement. And in 80% of the cases, it just complemented what they were buying. It wasn't an instead thing. It was a in addition to kind of thing. So signage and graphics in the printed sense, one of the great benefits of digital displays is interactivity, right? So, but signage and graphics can have interactivity as well. So, I like to think the real key to interactivity in many cases is this small system you have in your hand right here, the mobile device. So in many cases, printed signage and graphics have some element of interactivity, a QR code, something that you do on your phone, like an augmented reality application. And so we've asked these buyers, these wide format buyers, have you ever included any level of interactivity? And we've done the same study twice. And I just wanted to point out, in 2011, only about 20% of these buyers have ever included any kind of interactivity in their printed signage and graphics. By last year, that number had more than doubled. It was 43% say, yeah, I want something that heightens the engagement, something that the viewer, the passerby, can interact with and sort of increase the level of activity with this brand that we're trying to advertise. Oops, sorry. So out of those, in both groups, when the 20% said it and when the 43% said it, 92% of the companies that said we've included some kind of interactivity, 92% said we would do that again. So we think that in many cases signage and graphics is a bridge to real digital signage activity. And what kind of signage and graphics? This is there's wide format printing means lots of different things to lots of people. It could be banners or POP or decals or backlit or outdoor signs, what have you. It can be included in any kind of setting, even in things like vehicle wraps. And what do they want to do with it? Why would they include interactive elements with with printed signage and graphics? Part of it is just to add interactivity, but they want to boost sales, right? They want to integrate social media. They want to create some buzz or capture some information. And one of the things that I would encourage anyone to do, if you haven't seen it, is take a look at what EFI's got, this tool they call Smart Sign Analytics. It basically is a camera, and it's measuring the audience view of printed signage and graphics. Has anyone seen that? Raise your hand if you've seen it. So we've got a few. But I love that implementation. It's not digital signage, but it is providing information about what captures people's eyes. And that's really one of the real goals, one of the things I see happening, especially at retail, which is a big business. One of the things we're going to see in retail a lot is the idea of a beacon. This retail store really wants to capture the flow of information, the flow of shoppers. They want to see where shoppers stop, where your eyes go when you're in a store. So when you think about it, you've got a tracking device when you're walking around a grocery store. If there's beacons were in place, they can tell where you slow down, where you stop, where your eyes go. They want all that information to measure the effectiveness of advertising at the individual level. And there's lots of things your phone knows about you in terms of where you go, what you shop for, what you look for. So if you add all that information together, you can understand from a print service provider standpoint, how do you add that level of service, that additional stuff that you can sell beyond just a printed sign and graphic or a digital sign. It's the other kind of audience measurement sort of information that's really important. We also we ask what kind of interactivity did you include in your printed signage and graphics, and anytime you start off with a technology or a capability, there's going to be lots of people who do it badly, right? So one of the things that one of my pet peeves is actually when you go scan a QR code and it just leads you directly to a company's website. That has to be the worst implementation possible, right? If I wanted to go to your website, I could do that anytime. I don't have to stop. I don't have to stop me on the street. Anyone can do that, and it's the first thing they do, and it's the worst thing they do. The best thing to do is to create some very specific call to action, a coupon, or some specific thing that I get immediately. You know, the Red Bull drops out of the vending machine right now, not go redeem this in 2 years from now, or go look at my website. That's the worst implementation. So here's what they would do with it: some kind of social media activity, some kind of mobile application. As I said, I think this is really the tool. In fact, some of the stuff David was talking about. The real tool is how does it integrate with mobile? So think about that in terms of your signage, all your signage and graphics, whether it's print or digital displays. Mobile is really the key. This knows who you are. It knows where you are almost all the time, right? It doesn't have to track eyeballs, which is kind of a next level thing. It knows where you are all the time. It also can be transaction enabled, right? A lot of what we see happening now is NFC enable, or I can't recall what the Apple NFC, what's it called? iBeacon. The Apple has an implementation very much like it, but this can basically work like your credit card, right? So this is a very important part of digital signage, or what we see mobile advertising and digital and printed signage work in. And then of course you can just opt in and opt out, and it's not a visually intrusive thing like some signage can be. Next. Here we go. Yeah, so I think this is one of my last slides, but basically we've done this study with FESPA a bunch of times, and we've asked questions about, do you see digital signage or LCD or live media impacting your printed signage and graphics business? And this chart is a bit of an eye chart. I know it's hard to read, but when you really net it, what we see is that the print companies, these are wide format printing companies, they actually see less of a threat from digital signage over time. And I think it's because a lot of them recognize, okay, there are ways these two things play together, and as I said, lots of ways where printed signage and graphics can surround or lead directly the viewer, the shopper, the passerby, lead their eyes directly where the digital sign that they really want them to see. So to summarize it, basically, I think digital signage is a big opportunity. I think there's more signage and graphics companies entering this market. There basically has been a resident business, what we would call the Pro AV segment, that have been the systems integrators around digital signage. I see lots more sign companies in the U.S. We've got Fast Signs and the Sign Network franchise companies. They're all making a big deal out of digital signage. So I think that we're going to see a lot more sign companies get involved in the digital side. We think they often play together. One can usually lead to more of the other. And again, I think all suppliers should really be thinking about how mobile plays, because this is the device that's not going away. You could argue about print. You could even argue about different formats of digital display. I don't think anybody would argue that your mobile phone is not, or some mobile device, that's not going anywhere. So however the advertiser wants to present that information, your mobile phone is the key there. And that's all I have. So thank you very much. Anybody have any questions? Okay, great. Well, my email address is there if anybody wants a copy of this, or if anyone has any questions they don't want to speak up. Thank you.